reassess and reset priorities. Just to give you some perspective on what Dr. Yoon said, the American consumer is responsible for roughly 70% of the GDP and 20% of worldwide consumption. So when you hear and when we talk about the American consumer sitting on the sidelines, the stress on the system is enormous. It's almost incalculable. You have to couple that now with the fact that we have some indecision in government, and rightfully so. I think this new administration has to take stock of what's happening and make some intelligent decisions, and they will. I have great confidence in that fact. But again, right now you're seeing an absolute lockup of liquidity as it relates to the commercial real estate marketplace. That means, as was suggested by Dr. Yoon, we do not have benchmarks. We're beginning to see some benchmarks, and I, for one, am an optimist about the future in this regard, and I'm going to come back to that. But let's face it, in the first set of TARP capital that was delivered to the financial industries, they had to use that capital to do two things. First, to shore up their balance sheets. Secondly, they used a significant amount of that TARP capital to acquire other institutions, failing institutions, at the behest of government, and that was probably an appropriate thing to do to a degree. We're in a situation now where new capital coming to these institutions has to be used wisely. As was suggested by Dr. Yoon, and I am a proponent of this, I think we have to come back to some form of relaxation on the mark-to-market as it relates to commercial assets. We've got to do that. We've also got to deal with the toxic assets, whether it's an aggregator bank or whether it's a government guarantee backstopping the toxic assets. We've got to do those things or you will not see banks clear up their balance sheets. And without a clearing up of the bank balance sheets, lending isn't going to be getting there. The TALF program is critical. There's over $400 billion of mortgages rolling over the next 18 months, and we have to have some assistance in that because you can't let good credit mortgages go bad. I want to leave you with one other thought, and this is on the optimistic side. Despite the challenges and despite what I think is a redefinition of the new norm for our country, for the consumer, and for business, I think we'll get there. Deleveraging is a very painful process. It does not happen overnight, and it does not happen easily. You are watching businesses, some that operated at leverage ratios at 30 to 1, having to come back to some form of normalcy and an adjustment. You're seeing businesses that operated at 12 and 15 to 1 to have to come back to some form of normalcy. What we've got to do is get credit back in the system so that good businesses don't go bad. That's the challenge before us. I think we'll get there. There is huge opportunity as real estate values adjust. We've seen destruction in real estate values now somewhere between 20, 30, and maybe up to 50% in certain marketplaces. The major CBDs, gateway cities, are clearly holding up better than others, but this value destruction means opportunity for future prospective buyers. There's over $62 billion sitting on the sidelines, and that's probably an underestimate of the capital that's waiting to move. What we have to have is credit. We've got to have and be able to provide debt. Even at an adjusted loan to value, whether it's 60 or 65% of debt to equity, at that rate, provided there's credit there, you're going to see the value adjustment take place. You're going to see the new benchmark, whether it's 7 or 8% cap rates, all those things will occur, and you're going to see the next round of wealth creation within our industry.
You talked a lot about the financial side of that, Bruce. Can you expand that to other industries? And I mean, we've got the auto right in front of us now, but talk about what you see in terms of our clients.
Am I going to be quoted on the auto industry comments? It's a great question. Let me put some perspective around it. When I suggested that business models have to adjust, the auto industry is a great example of a business model that worked in the past when the consumer was able to buy 2, 3, 4 cars per family in some instances. The auto industry was able to survive because whatever production they were able to achieve, there was a consumer somewhere out there that was willing to buy. That's all gone. You can't have a business model that has more retirees on your payroll than current workers on your payroll. We've got to do something with the business model. We can't just throw money, in my opinion. Again, this is one man's opinion. We cannot just throw money at certain business models that don't work fundamentally, where they're flawed, we have to help fix it. So in the instance of the automotive industry, I suggest that we look at the business model, that we adjust the business model, and then we provide funds that will work towards a future that's sustainable, which to me is the critical underlying assessment in every instance where we're putting federal dollars at work. Is the business model sustainable? Ask yourself that question, and then you're going to have the proper answer.
We live in Washington. We love to spend other people's money, and we're doing a good job of that, I think. But also, I'd like to know how the rest of the world is looking at all this money being spent. I mean, are people saying it's done well, it's done badly? What do you hear as you go around?
Well, as I travel the world, one of the interesting things is that you continuously hear about the question about how did we get to this place and who is responsible, and clearly the finger continuously points around the world of Wall Street. Wall Street is the culprit, Wall Street is the problem. And there seems to be this gap between Wall Street and Main Street that you hear about continuously in the press, and I think we need to set the record straight. Was Wall Street responsible? The question is a moot point because we are where we are. But there is absolute interconnectivity between Wall Street and Main Street. Don't forget where Main Street has invested. Police, fire, widows funds are all invested in 401k and pension plans. They're all invested on the street. So the connectivity is there and will be there. We can't fix Main Street without fixing Wall Street. What I hear continuously around the world is that when is America going to figure it out? Why are they throwing these kinds of dollars, taxpayer dollars, at the problem, and will it fix it? And as you heard from Dr. Newton, I think this is the $64,000 question. After we get done throwing the capital that we're going to put out, will it be a sustainable model for the future? I happen to be an optimist. I think it will, because I think the dollars that we're investing will stimulate the economy. Once bank balance sheets, and I keep coming back to that, I apologize, but it is the root of, I think, the turnaround, along with what we have to do on the housing side. But once we've done these things, I think the model will sustain. I think you will see people see value destruction at such a level that they say it is time to move. When you're on the outside looking in, you look at this marketplace, the U.S., and even other markets like London, where we've already seen significant value destruction, people are starting to say, hey, you know what? At 7, at 8, at 9 cap rates, we're beginning to look a lot like emerging markets from a commercial real estate perspective, and we're a safe haven. And we are liquid, transparent, despite all of our issues. We're a liquid, transparent market. I think that's what's going to get us through this, and that's what will make it sustainable.